In northern Alaska, deep in the snow-covered wilderness, there was a town called Blackridge. It wasn't on most maps. Only a few locals remained, and no one knew ever moved in. The town had a legend. People vanished without a trace. Not just one or two. Entire families. No signs of struggle. No bodies. Just empty houses. Nathan Carter, an investigative journalist, had heard of Blackridge through a conspiracy forum. Unlike most ghost stories, this one felt real. People had been documenting strange disappearances for over 60 years, and the local government seemed to ignore it. Determined to uncover the truth, Nathan drove into Blackridge with his two best friends, Erica Wells and Daniel Hayes, both documentary filmmakers. The town was eerily quiet. Snow covered the roads, but there were no footprints, no car tracks. The first thing they noticed was the houses. They weren't abandoned. The doors were open. Meals left half-eaten. Coats still hanging by the doors. Like everyone had just walked out and never returned. Inside a small diner, they found the only survivor, a woman in her 50s named Margaret Gray. "You need to leave," she whispered. Nathan leaned forward. "What happened here?" "They took them," she muttered. "Who?" She pointed outside, to the fog rolling in from the trees. Despite Margaret's warnings, the three stayed. They set up their cameras and explored the town. At midnight, Daniel heard whispering outside their motel. He peeked through the blinds. A man stood in the street, staring at their window. His face was wrong, like stretched skin barely covering a skull. His eyes were completely black. Daniel woke the others. But when they looked outside, the man was gone. The next morning, they found footprints in the fresh snow. Hundreds of them. Surrounding the motel. Each footprint ended abruptly, as if the people had just disappeared mid-step. "We're leaving," Erica said. Nathan refused. "Not yet. We need to know what's causing this." That evening, they returned to Margaret's house, but the door was wide open. The furniture overturned. Margaret was gone. That night, Erica heard a voice calling her name. She turned to Nathan. "Did you hear that?" A whisper right behind her ear. "Erica." She spun around. A figure stood in the shadows. Tall. Thin. Its skin pale and stretched. Its fingers too long. Black eyes. No mouth. Nathan grabbed Erica's wrist. "Run." Daniel wasn't fast enough. The thing reached him, placed its hand over his face. And Daniel vanished. No scream. No struggle. Just gone. Nathan and Erica ran into the forest, but the fog was thick. They couldn't see. The whispering returned. Nathan held on to Erica. "Don't listen." But Erica was staring into the fog, eyes wide. Nathan shook her. "Erica." She smiled, but it wasn't her smile. Her eyes turned solid black. Her face stretched. Nathan stumbled back. "No, no, no, no." She took a step forward. "Nathan." Nathan ran. He ran until his lungs burned. Until the town disappeared behind him. Nathan woke up in a hospital 2 days later. A detective sat beside his bed. "We found you outside of town," the detective said. "You were alone." Nathan swallowed. "Did you find Erica? Or Daniel?" The detective shook his head. "Blackridge has been abandoned for over 40 years. There's no one there." Nathan's blood went cold. "I was just there," he whispered. The detective sighed. "You're not the first." Every few years, someone like you goes to Blackridge looking for answers. They always come back alone. Nathan's hands trembled. And the people who disappear. The detective's eyes darkened. They become the next hollow ones. Months later, Nathan sat in his apartment, unable to sleep. His footage from Blackridge had corrupted. His phone was filled with unreadable files. One night, he heard whispering in his apartment. His breath hitched. Slowly, he turned and saw Erica standing in the doorway. Her eyes were black, her mouth gone. The whisper came from inside his head. "Join us, Nathan." The lights flickered off. A complete silence.